Commander, how you doing, Dan?
Todd, always a pleasure to join you in the skip, brother.
Really appreciate it, man. So I know you're on the road, and I know you just pulled over and got a good cell signal. So thank you for making the time for us today. I wanted to get you on because I'm trying to educate our audience on what our SOF brothers may be doing down in Latin America primarily. But I saw the 160th was active down there training it probably. What do you see happening in the special operations community right now?
Well, listen. Obviously, it's the first guys that go in anywhere are going to are the Brotherhood, we know now that it's been announced, and it's actually and your old command where you used to fly. It's always whenever that asset is being deployed downrange, who the type of people are using are going to be using that asset, that platform. So
Yeah.
you know, it remains to be seen in terms of what's going to happen long term. I mean, obviously, we're not looking to get into another full scale war. So this largely probably what's going to happen is going to be in the shadows, and it's going to be the special operations community. We've already put a huge presence with an aircraft battle group that's been shifted. And, we know the drone strikes and the strikes against the drug cartels. So I think we're going to see more of that escalation. I don't know, and I wouldn't even want to predict about the fact that we'd be putting troops on the ground yet, but we are definitely getting assets and doing intel collection in the region for sure.
Yeah, that's what I see. And I hope, I wrote an article this morning. I hope it doesn't go full scale because I don't think the American public really wants that. And a lot of the drugs aren't coming out of Venezuela. I think there's another agenda here, probably the downfall of Maduro in that area. I think I might have lost Dan.
No, hold on.
Okay.
Hold on. I mean,
No worries.
I shut off my navigation, so you want to keep hearing that in the background.
Well, let's move around the world. What do you hear from the community as far as in Eastern Europe? I know we're trying to get that thing wound down, but there's still activity, especially on the mercenary front in that area. Anything you're hearing from the guys?
No, I mean, listen, I was on the ground in Ukraine in the first 5 weeks of the conflict, and again, I don't think anyone predicted it would last this long. I think there's going to be a Saturday night surprise like we had with the Israeli hostage coming to a kind of a rapid conclusion with the negotiation that was done behind the scenes, and I'm hopeful that Trump, who's never going to get the Nobel Peace Prize, but will pull off another Sunday night special where things behind the scenes. I think he's going to do everything he can in his power to force Putin to the table and get a resolution. I know that that and because right now it's just a meat grinder. I mean, the drone strikes are still happening. Soldiers are still getting killed. Russia has more bodies to throw at the problem, but it's been a meat grinder. So I'm hopeful that things are happening behind the scenes, where Trump will leverage things like no one else and force a resolution between Zelensky and Putin himself.
Well, you mentioned drones. As an operator on the ground and in the air, that's become a real threat, and it's something that I think the teams and others have to learn how to deal with. Is it just a shotgun, or is there new technology coming?
Well, I just spent the last 2 days at a counterterrorism cyber symposium here in Miami. It was phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
It was at Florida FAU. And the speakers, some of the talent pool, and it was heavy U.S., UK, Australian, and Canadian counterparts, heavy law enforcement, and a lot of cyber professionals. And one of the panelists was a 4-star retired general, Mike Murray. Never met him before. Very impressive guy. And he basically stated the reality, because drone was a big topic over the 2 days, that he said, we have to acknowledge that we cannot send any force, any unit, any element without them being detected with technology out there. So that changes the game. I mean, the fact that you have drones the size of your hand that cost less than $200 are able to basically strike and take out virtually anyone on the battlefield, individual soldiers. And I think the longer term is with AI coming, you could strategically with a drone that could fit in the palm of your hand, you could take out strategic leadership, government and otherwise. So I don't think, and it's been on display in Ukraine, and the West is going to have to step up because infiltration, which was your caveat when you're taking the boys in, knowing that now a handful of drones could take out an entire fleet of the best special operations birds, helicopter platforms the U.S. has to offer, and there'll be
Yeah.
nothing we can do about it. It is literally going to change warfare.
Yeah, I'm thinking there needs to be some kind of, we had a lot of electronic countermeasures for infrared and for other types of seeker heads. Maybe there needs to be some kind of like short range EMP or something that can just, broadcast a signal to take out any navigation devices, or I don't know. I'm sure the tech guys will come up with something, but have you, in that conference, did you hear any kind of what the technology may develop into?
No, but it's a lot of very smart men and women in the room, and everyone. The topic of AI and the fears of AI, and one of the panels discussed, you know, is AI going to be a good thing for humanity, or is it going to be the end of mankind, if you will? And I think the jury is still out because, and that's just on the Chat GPT side of the house.
Yeah.
Your government doesn't care about you. That's why you need a medical emergency kit. It contains life-saving medications like ivermectin, Z-Pak, and antibiotics. Stock them before they block them.
This is a special report.
Knowing how to invest your money is harder than ever before. Dealing with stock market volatility, record debt, and terrorist attacks requires new thinking. At U.S. Asset Management, we can help you see the world more clearly so that you can move beyond the chaos and invest with confidence. Call us, visit us online, or drop by our office. U.S. Asset Management, helping you make better decisions with your money.
Yeah.
But when you apply it to the drones and artificial intelligence, I think it's going to be an entirely new ball game, and I think the sky's going to be the limit.
So you're a defense contractor and obviously have clearances and everything, and I don't want to get into anything that you shouldn't talk about, but on a greater front, where do you see the defense community moving towards technologically?
Well, it's like, look at your community. You were in the Air Force, and what is the percentage now between pilots versus non-piloted drones, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you've got guys that are now getting combat ribbons for fighting a war from what was it, Nellis Air Force Base out in Nevada for
Yeah.
being drone pilots. And I think that whole resist, because Air Force is, you guys want to fly jets, but jets are going to become obsolete. If
Yeah.
we can put all the technology in a smaller size, J-22 or F-35, without having to put the human factor in it, why wouldn't we do it? Because we could mass produce and do it cheaper with the same technology and not have the human factor. And I think that's going to come, what the Air Force is dealing with. I think that's what the Army and SOF are going to have to deal with, because that is going to be the new reality, where you're going to be exposed at any point of an insertion to actions at the objective. And again, like you said, I'm not tracking the drone, counter drone, but I know that is a huge industry right now, because everyone's trying to come up with how do we counter the drone threat.
Yeah. What about in Latin America, Mexico more specifically? Any word on operations against the cartels or any type of training or anything like that?
Well, I do know that the only valid force were the Mexican Marines, and I know that NSW has gone down and done training missions. So there's been an ongoing relationship, and the challenge is finding who isn't corrupted in Mexico, right? Virtually,
Yeah.
I mean, one of the cartels, the Zetas, right? The Zetas were former special forces, Mexican special forces, who had been trained by U.S. special forces. And then they ended up becoming muscle for one of the cartels, and then splintered off and became their own cartel. So finding an honest broker in Mexico is half the challenge. But I think I think it's pretty clear with what we're doing and taking out those boats down in off the coast of Venezuela that they've got an entire campaign plan to address the drug problem. And let's be honest, it's our border where the fentanyl and the drugs are coming across, and that means Mexico. So
Yes.
I think at a minimum, there's got to be training going on, by U.S. Special Operations Forces. Are we there at the point where we're going kinetic yet? Well, probably not, but I wouldn't say that's out of the realm of possibility down the road.
So what did you learn at the conference? I had heard some things about it, but where is the focus of the cyber community, and what do they think? Are they optimistic that we can handle this threat, or what?
I guess being, I'm a counterterrorism guy, not a cyber guy.
Yeah.
But and it was multiple briefs, multiple presentations. The level of cyber attacks that are happening on businesses it's something like every 14 seconds, a malware ransomware is put out. And yesterday's panel had a 2-hour like back-to-back panel and discussion on the topic of how they resolve, and it's eerily similar. I talked to this guy, David Goodman, who actually might probably be a good guy to have on your show. His whole mission is he's like a hostage negotiator for ransomware, where they
Yeah.
get these, and a lot of these actors are from Eastern Europe, right? They will hit a company, they'll put in a system, and they will ransom. And I asked him, I said, well, can you barter it? Can you negotiate down? He said, absolutely. I said, well, what is the average initial ask, and then what do you guys usually pay out? And it was exactly the same way hostage negotiation goes in the kidnapping ransom world. Well, typically the group who grabs the individual will demand an exorbitant sum, say $5 million, and they generally settle ultimately for about 10%. And that was what this guy's experience was. And he said if you settle too early or settle too soon, you'll get hit again. So it's so similar how the criminal mind works. If it's a terrorist group like Al Qaeda, a narco terrorist group like the cartels, or just you know people that are extorting you for money by putting in a system that's going to expose all your personal data or company data or clients' data, which say like a server like T-Mobile, where all your credit card information and personal information is going to be released. And these attacks are happening constantly.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how cities, and in fact, one of the panelists, she was a deputy mayor of a suburb of New York, a big town, Suffolk, and it hit the news. This thing hit the news, but it took them. They were without email for 6 weeks. They weren't getting. Had to put everyone almost on 12-hour shifts. It was just incredible how a ransomware attack can not only affect a business but can literally target a city. And it's kind of a scale for, like, I guess one of the big things for long term, if indeed, like, take for example China, they brought up the Taiwan issue. If China, which has claimed that by 2027 they're going to take Taiwan back, that they're going to attack the grid in the United States. And you've heard about those water plants. I mean, 60 Minutes
Yeah.
had a profile that if China knows that it's critical for them to execute their takeover of Taiwan before the U.S. can respond. So we can expect attacks on the grid, like what happened in Suffolk, to slow roll the U.S. to be inner focused and not focus on the outer threat. And I think again that's going to be the new warfare we'll be dealing with in the future.
Wow, that's frightening to say the least, and it's coming, I think. So, last question: what are you up to, man? What's going on with Dan O'Shea, and are you, where can people follow you, find you, whatever?
I am. We're gonna talk next week. I want to and do it offline probably about bringing on board an expansion with AFP on maybe a national security podcast, a more like weekly
Yep.
and a specified topic. But let's have that conversation offline, and then obviously have me back on. Maybe a little bit more regular. But let's talk about where we can go in the future, because I think it's important to be getting these voices out. Made some tremendous connections with this network, and sharing these lessons learned with national security professionals is critical. And I think your audience will be fascinated on the level of just a set of business cards I collected in the last 48 hours. We probably have 5 or 6 shows that would make a fascinating hour on a podcast.
Outstanding. Look forward to it, and I love your insight. Thank you so much, Commander. We'll have you back.
Okay, take care, Todd.
Take care.
Have a great
Bye.
day, guys.
All right.